this report was a disaster. He knowingly hid documents in his garage next to his Corvette. He knew they were there. He was asked about it by the attorney, Robert Hur, and Robert Hur came to the conclusion that, you know what, the guy was just so old and feeble and couldn't remember anything that he would present really poorly to a jury. They wouldn't be able to get a conviction, and so why bother moving forward? And he put all this in a report. And so now everybody's freaking out. There's a lady over on MSNBC who's like, well, Rob Hur, he's not a doctor. He's not a neurologist. How can he say this? Watch her.
So I think that's a really interesting point that I hadn't heard. And I do agree that it is important to, norms are important, right? The reason we're so far along here is because norms have not been followed. I would say I don't think that Hur is a good faith actor, and I think that 345 pages of that show that. I mean, he's not a neurologist, right? If you want to weigh in on legal things, that's fine. But, the idea, and again, to fault someone for saying they don't remember during a deposition, when we've seen people like Dr. Anthony Fauci say that hundreds of times during a deposition, that's what you're supposed to say if you don't remember, because you don't want to be wrong. And so I do think he sort of picked up things that are tactics that people use, and went and sort of drew conclusions that were not his conclusions to draw.
Okay, so fine, except that he's a lawyer who's thinking, am I actually going to be able to get this case to the finish line? And when he makes a decision, he's not going to be able to get to the finish line. He has to explain why that is. And so he has to tell people why it is. And why is it? Well, he doesn't think he's got a very good guy to put on the witness stand there, because nobody's actually going to convict him of anything, because he's going to seem so sympathetic because he's so old and he seems like he's not really with it and he can't remember key things. And so now they're circling the wagons. I mean, they have no choice. The Democrats are like, oh, how dare you bring this up? How dare you insult his neurological capability? I mean, he's totally with it. He's got all his faculties with it, right? I mean, that's why he made the crazy decision to come out and sound like an angry old man the other night. As soon as this report came out, by the way, they are charging Donald Trump for it, for the same thing, because even though he's 77, apparently he's with it enough that they can go after him. They just can't go after Joe. Interesting, shall we say. Let's watch Mr. Biden, the president of the United States, get a little testy with reporters after this report was released.
Questions.
President Biden, something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally
bad is your memory, and can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad, I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr. President?
My memory has not gotten. My memory is fine. My memory. Take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
And then we learned from KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, that was all his idea. He's the one who wanted to go out and do that. They couldn't hold him back. No way, no how. She also was quoted today, just moments ago, speaking in the press conference. I want to bring this to you, emphasizing how loud and clear his message is.
I'll say this more broadly. The president has restored our alliances and made stronger in the world because of what this president has been able to do. And he knows every commander-in-chief's first job, right? Their first job is to make sure that the American people are safe. That is what the president understands. And so NATO is now, because of his leadership, it's now larger, as you know. And it's also the most vital that it's been because of what this president has been able to do. And I think this president's leadership speaks fully and speaks really loudly with our closest allies.
So he's in charge. He's got all his faculties about him, and we have nothing to worry about because his most important focus is the safety of the United States. Could have fooled me. Could have fooled me. I mean, he's the one with the vacancy sign wide up. Hey, you know what? As soon as he came into office, we're here, we're ready, come one, come all. That hasn't worked out so well. He's the one who chose to immediately withdraw from Afghanistan, which led to a whole host of problems, just like John McCain, by the way, forecasted it would. He told us this some 10 years ago. He said, Antony Blinken, who's now Biden's Secretary of State, is such a disaster. He will cost American lives because he will try to get out of Afghanistan too quickly, which is, in fact, exactly what happened. And then the repercussions of that we are living through in a really enormous way. Really enormous way. So I know we didn't want to stay over there in Afghanistan forever, but sometimes you need to have a small presence, something there on the ground, just to kind of keep the peace, so to speak. You know, that kind of stuff does matter. So he can't run. I mean, I just don't know how he runs.